Welcome to Templar Talks. This is a weird episode. We're in a warehouse. No, we're in Firestorm Games. It's been great. I don't know if the Welsh gaming South Wales Gaming Centre is in view of the camera, but we're at the Gathering. It's Cardiff stop.
We're joined Cardiff.
Yeah, myself and Todd are joined by fantastic special guest, PT contender, legend all round and great guy, Benton Madsen. I genuinely I'm so glad you've come on, man.
Yeah, we're buzzing to have you on.
I'm glad to be here, guys.
Yeah, it's great to hang out. We've been on a few trips together now. We've hung, we've grabbed food, and it's good to finally have a bit of a chat about Magic. I say that's a lie because I think we spoke about Magic a lot, but you know what I mean. It's one of those things.
We've had a bit of a chat about Magic, but now we're really ready to get into it.
Yeah, get into the nitty-gritty.
Nitty-gritty,
Let's get contentious.
Yeah, for sure. So, unbanned Splinter Twin. Anyway.
Yes,
please.
But yes, though. But yes, you want to tell me to be bad? You want to tell me to be a problem in a format with Solitude? With Force Negation.
Yeah.
It's a 7-minute investment that gets blown up for zero. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I will go on about this for an hour.
Yeah. No. So thank you very much for joining us. It's going to be a bit of a whirlwind one, I think, because I think there's whispers we're going to get kicked out of here.
There is
at
a
some
potential
point.
of that. For a small amount of context, we've been trying to do this for 2.5 days.
Yeah, we've all been crazy busy.
It's amazing we can do it.
I keep trying to give a Vintage Cube presentation to Worldly Council that I keep moving this back for because I've worked so hard. And this is the first PowerPoint presentation I've done in years.
Nice.
So
nice.
I really care about this one. And it's just not happening. It still hasn't happened. It's supposed to happen Thursday.
Small
we'll see.
shout out there to Team Templar, Ed, and his PowerPoints. We appreciate you.
Yeah, so we do monthly team meetings, and he pretty much does a PowerPoint every meeting.
The 86 pages.
Yeah.
That's high quality.
When a new set comes out, it takes a while.
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess it's all fun. It's great to get together and speak to people about Magic.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I think I want to kick off on a curveball because obviously we spoke about a few things before this. Obviously, I want to say it, and I don't mean anything by it. I think you're genuinely the most passionate Magic player I've ever met.
Really?
I've never seen someone so happy around the game, and it's
infectious.
Infectious. It's so
Right.
nice to see.
Yeah.
It's so nice to see, and it makes me want to play Magic more. Do you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
definitely.
It's so cool. How did you get into the game? Because I've never heard this story. When did you start playing?
So I started playing in 2012, which was M13 core set. Was my first set.
Nice.
Good time to enter in.
Yep.
Lots of nostalgic sort of cards from that era. Right after Innistrad, which is sort of a fan favorite. My brother played Magic the Gathering, and he and I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Together when I was
shit. Yeah, I did. That's that was my segue into Magic.
Oh, that's great. When did you play?
So I played Yu-Gi-Oh! On first set release, and then came back to it in 2019 because it had been so long. Played it for literally 2 days, and then went into the game store nearby my house. And a guy there who works there called Alex, one of the friends of the Templar, just said, "Have you tried this game called Magic the Gathering instead?" And I never looked back to Yu-Gi-Oh! But,
Yu-Gi-Oh! It is well designed, and I mean I loved it because of the anime. I remember vividly. I was 3 years old, crying about some stupid thing, who knows what, and someone put on Yu-Gi-Oh! As a pilot episode on wherever it was back in the day. I think Cartoon Network or something.
Yeah.
And I was hooked immediately. I was like, the heart of the cards. I understand now. I know what to do.
You're making me feel old because I remember watching the pilot too, but I think I was 10.
Oh wow! Wait, how old are you?
I'm
this is.
sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm
How
in
the
my
turntables?
30s. Yeah, I'm 34.
Oh, fair.
I'm
Well,
in my 20s.
I'm 28, so I'm sort of in the middle here, roughly.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm in my 30s as well, sadly.
Yeah, we're both old, man.
Yeah.
No, but you can never too old for Yu-Gi-Oh! Surely.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but so I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! With my brother, and I think I beat him a sum total of 0 times. And we would play a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Together. And I was, I did all the things that are sort of the signs of an absolutely, truly awful player. Yu-Gi-Oh!, unlike Magic, has a maximum deck limit. You can only register up to 60 cards.
Yeah.
And he said, you know what, Ben, for this game, I'll let you play as many cards in your deck as you want. And I was like, oh my God, what an advantage. And I lost, because of course I did, because that's a terrible idea. They're really doing you a favor by limiting you to 60.
Did you know, actually, that wasn't always the case? and a judge thought it was stupid. This could be wrong. I'm sorry if it's wrong, whoever's watching. But from what I heard, a judge thought the rule was stupid, so they went to a tournament with the largest deck they could assemble.
I have seen this picture.
Yeah, exactly.
And he like wore a suit and carried it over his shoulder like a log.
And
what a hero.
They spent so long shuffling his deck to present it that the rounds were over. And immediately after that, they were like, we need to put a limit on this.
Fair enough. And in fairness, I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is already a complicated enough game. I mean, I feel like the reason why Magic is... The primary reason why I like Magic more than Yu-Gi-Oh! Isn't even necessarily anything intrinsically about the gameplay. It's the fact that the cards, you can read them and they make sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas like Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, I need a YouTube video to explain to me what every single one of them does in order to make any sense of what's happening.
I don't know if you remember from when you first played it.
And also a magnifying glass.
But when you first played it, it wasn't like that, right? Like I remember when I was a kid, it was just math. And then now it's like there's a book on each card.
Every single card.
Yeah. Do you feel like Magic cards are going book levels of complexity?
They're pushing it that way, I guess, but not. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a special place to get to.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it's because they have to translate everything from Japanese, so it's everything where like some of it just doesn't quite work. Yeah. I think that also, so I think what's going on with Magic. This is always explained to me, and I would believe it. During the COVID era, certain restrictions on what you normally do in game design were lifted. Essentially, like, when they design Magic cards, they think about things like how inconvenient of a play experience is this? And, you know, a drawback of printing a card that requires you to make a token is that you need to represent that in the game state. And even if it's relatively easy, you know, you put a quarter on the battlefield as your token, it's kind of inconvenient. It causes players to miscommunicate or not understand what's going on. And during the COVID era, no one was playing in paper. The main way you played was digital clients that handled all that stuff for you. So that limit, that barrier was suddenly removed, and they did a lot of stuff in that era that you can sort of... I don't think they would have done if it weren't for the fact that the digital era, it was you were playing digitally mostly.
Yeah.
Day Night's a great example. Totally fine in digital, but in paper, whenever it's a creature that's making it day or night goes, the fact that you have to keep tracking it is really awful. A bummer.
Yeah.
That kind of segues a little bit right into Nadu. I mean, that's the enemy of the weekend, the peace conversation. I
think that they were very, very close to having a good, usable design that should be printed with Nadu. It has too many points of toughness.
Okay, interesting.
I think if Nadu died to Lightning Bolt, different format.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
totally
actually,
different format.
I didn't even think about that. Because I have thought about the stats being pushed. Like, even if you take away the text on the card, it's a 2/4, right?
3/4.
Yeah.
Someone's not been playing enough Modern.
A free. Well, you don't. It never
I can see why you didn't top 8 the Mega Modern. You haven't even seen a Nadu.
I was playing Mudpunk.
Well, they never cast against you. All their lands are islands.
But no, what's it called? The thing I think is like a 3/4 for free mana that flies. Even from when I started playing Magic, that's like a hell of a body.
It's a good stat.
I definitely had instances yesterday in my dismal run in the Mega Modern where I faced an Nadu and I was like 4. And I'm trying to count how many energy I need to kill that. And then it replaces itself.
The drawing a card is annoying, but this is why I think it actually would have ended up being an interesting design at 3 toughness, is because you're down 2 mana if it gets lightning bolted, and you're up a card. And that's kind of a cool sweet spot as an interaction. And this is the thing. I feel like the design philosophy for Modern should be something along the lines of, if it's pushing Lightning Bolt out of the format, it's a problem. Lightning Bolt is the card that should define Modern, in my opinion. It has been since the inception. It's a card that is absolutely broken. If any other card that was new had the level of dominance that Lightning Bolt has had in different periods of Modern, like, remember when Splinter Twin and Jund were the best decks? Lightning Bolt wasn't everything. I mean, those were 4 of Lightning Bolt decks. Lightning Bolt was what made them good. Was that like Snapcaster Bolt was good and
Snapcaster Bolt. Those were the days.
See, this is before my time.
The minute we lost Snapcaster it was a sad day.
It's true, but if you think about it, even after that, Lightning Bolt remained a staple. And it's one that no one wants to be banned, despite the fact that it's a high, play rate across all the history of Modern. It doesn't get old. It doesn't get boring. It almost never feels unfair. And I think that they should lean into, we'll balance the format around, like, when we have a card that maybe is a problem, maybe this looks just maybe too strong, we're not sure if it... Because the other problem with Nadu is that as a tier 0 deck, it has real playability issues. It's sort of fun to do it the first time. Time number 20 is just kind of a chore.
Yeah.
So this is why I would say, like, if I were Wizards, I think a lot of moments I'd be like, this seems like I don't necessarily, the payoff of it being good is, it's a sort of interesting deck. The downside is, if it's way too good, it'll be everywhere and it'll be really boring and kind of repetitive. Let's make it a 3/3. That's what I would have done.
I really like that thought process that the lightning bar is where you are. Lightning bolt is the bar that you balance Modern around.
It's a cornerstone of Modern, to be fair. Like, even, I started playing in Hogak Summer, but Lightning Bolt has still been such an important card that's always relevant. And you make a good point that 4 toughness is that issue. And I think on a card like Yawgmoth, when it's 4 mana, maybe it's okay to be a bit bigger, but when it's something like Nadu, that may have leveled it a little, which would have been good.
I think that's interesting, actually, you mentioned that. I think that both Urza and Yawgmoth were designed to be modern playable cards. They had to have really great effects because they're Urza and Yawgmoth. They're the first printing of both cards. You gotta do something cool. And they made them 4 mana, so to give them those cool effects, and that's expensive. But you'll notice they both have 4 toughness. And I think that was about, this can't die to Lightning Bolt, otherwise it's just unplayable. It's a total letdown, everyone's disappointed.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, I guess, I want to caveat this by saying we're hoping we get a part 2 of this at some point. We're very time constrained by the venue shutting here. We're
hoping
we can
jinx it by saying
it.
this, but I think there's some chance that it'll take a little longer for them to close up shop than they realize.
I'm hoping so. Well, I'm not hoping so for the start.
If every other Magic event I've ever been to is some indication.
Yeah, for sure. But so obviously, for those that don't know you kind of... You've been playing Magic at a very high level for a very long time, and then you made absolute waves with the most based meta call I've ever seen of playing functionally Boggles at the Pro Tour and took it all the way to the final. And, I'm not just saying this because you're here. I think you maybe got a bit unlucky in the final. In the deck wasn't as nice to you as it could have been, and I think your mulliganing was bang on. Because you had to.
I have had to defend that to so many people.
Really?
Most of the people who. So Michael Lech played a very similar deck. I basically stole his 75 and made a few cuts for cards that weren't legal when he played.
Sure.
Because they were printed in the format. He is confirmed for me that he thinks my mulligan decisions were not close and correct, which was the opinion I cared about. But a lot of people, in YouTube comment sections, are like, "Oh, he's just going for that Glade cover scout." And I'm like, "No, the ores were 2 mana. Do you understand me, Dad?"
No, I got
it. Reference, my dad does understand me. I love it very much.
I think it takes. So that was obviously a huge stage, right? There's a lot of pressure there, and I think that takes huge mental fortitude to make that decision. And I, as I said, I think it was the right decision, but to make that call, I think is brave, and I think it's the right call. I think the mulliganing is the hardest part of Magic. I
would agree, and I think, I would argue that what separates a lot of players from deep runs and success like that is the mental game, and just going, well, I can't lose a game now, and if I go down a card, my chances are lessened, so I'm not going to do it, even though I probably think that's the correct decision.
That mentality you just described is so common. There's this thing that Magic players do. You see it a lot in people who, they made the finals of a PTQ a couple times, but they don't quite cross over. When you feel that Magic players and humans generally will look for a reason to feel like I have this already, or I'm favored going into this. And it gives them this feeling of possession over the result of the match that they don't actually have. So then they suddenly look at a 7-card hand that's kind of, maybe they should throw back, but it's close. And they don't want to give up that feeling of owning the thing. So they play differently than they would if they were just viewing it as, a friend's Mikko game. Where they'd be like, Mulligan. Or
there was a huge,
usually less attached.
There was a huge point Sean made earlier, actually, of a reference he said of like, if you forget to play your land and cast a spell and someone spell pierces and you could have paid for it, sometimes you'll have that mentality of, oh, well, I'm not going to play the land now because I'm embarrassed to admit that I made that mistake.
That happens too.
But you should play the land because, you know, you have to wipe that from your memory.
I would say that it certainly my game would be improved if I was a bit more humble about my odds going into things. That's something I know, and I when people sort of try to hype up a result, I mean, I understand why they do it. They're just being friendly. They're just, you know, they want to express that they believe in you. But I sort of a bit of a downer usually when they say that. I'm sort of like, well, you know, if there are 4 rounds, I have to win all of them. So my odds of winning any given one is 50-50. So my odds of winning all 4 is abysmal. But I appreciate the support. And that's the reason why, though, is I don't want to feel like I'm, you know, oh, I'm good, so I'll win the next one. That's just not how it works. I've gone to pre-releases after top 8 Pro Tours and lost to some 14-year-old who's been playing Magic for a month, and that is expected value. That's just what you sign up for.
I like that. But so what do you think it takes to get that consistency? Because when we see these PTs, it's familiar faces, and to another extent as well, like even RCs, it's familiar faces, and people that win these Axion events. It's similar people in top 8s normally. What do you think gets that consistency? What's the edge that people, you know, really need to get themselves there?
This is so. The short answer is, so there's a bit of an so the player base can become a bit entrenched over time. In that, like once you're on that train, it becomes a bit easier to stay on. There are a few reasons for this. One is logistical. A great place to get a PT invite is at a PT. The record you need to get a PT invite at a PT is less impressive than what you need at a regional championship. The idea for that is that PTs are harder, but frankly, these days, you go to an RCQ, everyone in that room, minus maybe one person, has heard of MC Goldfish. And they've found lists that are, if they're not on the money, they're like 2 or 3 cards off. It's not, you know, the era of you show up and there's some guy with unsleeved cards who's playing sort of cards that aren't even legal and standard for the standard event. That's get one of those maybe, but
you know, a thing of the past.
Indeed.
Now.
So that's one aspect of it, but it's not the only one.
Really quickly, I will say there was an RCQ recently in East Anglia that a lot of the Templar guys couldn't make, and in one of the local group chats, someone genuinely messaged like, oh my God, why is there a PT contender here? And that was the one you went to.
That was the Ipswich? Oh, that was a good time. That was a really fun event. I effectively top-8'd that event 3 times. I was in a position where I could have gotten a game loss for presenting a 59-card deck without realizing it in one of my games. I caught it on myself. And the judge was like, if your opponent's happy to let it slide, I'm happy to say that's fine. And my opponent was a friend, and he was like, yeah, it's fine. But I lost that. I won that game. But I scooped him in because I was already queued for the RC, and he let it slide. Could have had it, so I can't take it from him. So he very generously afterwards gave me some of his prizing. I didn't even ask him to do that. He felt like, hey, I'm sorry about that. I made top 8 myself. So I won the first round top 8 because my opponent took lethal when they had a blocker. Like they just could have not taken lethal, and I had showed them my hand, so they had the win in play. I was talking with Phyrexian Mites, 1/1s that cannot block, into a 2/2 that can block. And he was like, it's 4 damage? I was like, yes, it's 4. It's like, take 4. I was like, you're at 6 poison. And he was like, oh, I wasn't keeping track. I was like, you probably should have been keeping track. And he was like, I probably should have blocked. Yeah, you probably should have. So I conceded ultimately because I couldn't take the win from that. But he also split prizes. So I got my own top 8 prizing, a friend's top 8 prizing, and his top 8 prizing. Top 8 3 times.
Oh, man.
In any case, regarding, sorry, I've totally lost the thread.
No. So in terms of these players maintaining high levels and staying on the PTs and
stuff.
The
biggest resource with it is community, in my opinion. Because the truth of the matter is, it's still pretty hard to do well at the Pro Tour, and, you know, what's the record you need? It's 10-6?
I think so, yeah.
It takes a lot of prep to do that. When you have friends who play a lot, you play, and you're all sort of improving. You're usually, the fact that you're all improving means that you're playing with better and better players. You get access to more ideas. And a lot of the times, you know, the stuff that you talk about before a tournament, like we expect this to be the meta game, or I think that this is a good counter to this, they matter. they're relevant. They add up. You know, I can't even tell you how many times we've described an interaction or a series of plays, how we think it lines up, a misconception we had, something that addresses an issue we hadn't really been thinking about enough, and then that's the difference in a critical round. And so really information sharing is a huge bit of it, and you want to be embedded in a network with people who share information and who, you know, have useful information to share. And the truth of the matter is most people have access to that, or more access than they might think, because you don't have to be playing PTs regularly to be worth listening to.
Yeah.
In fact, really, pretty much everyone who plays this game has some number of good ideas. You just need some ability to filter out the ones that are less good, and that really comes down to your ability to sort of follow what someone's saying, think of like to logically reason, which is what the game is testing to a large degree.
Yeah. No. That makes a lot of sense. And how do you to kind of go on from that as well? How have you found? Because I know this has been one of your first times testing with, I think you've been testing with Worldly Council, right?
Yeah.
How have you found that experience? Yeah.
Lovely. They're great. Really, really nice guys. I adore Lorenzo Trelizzi. Absolute sweetheart. Also just one of the chillest guys. He's like 19. He's just got everything figured out.
Nice.
It's a good way to be. Yeah. And Andrea Mengucci is a dream. Really great player. Very just like lovely personality. The Italian players I especially connect to because I speak Italian.
Sure.
And they appreciate that I'm not Italian, but I speak Italian. So we'll have long conversations, in different languages, and we get along. And Sean, complete sweetheart, adore Sean. I think everyone who's met Sean likes him.
Yeah, Sean's a super
I'm
nice
followed
guy.
on Twitter by his father, the Reverend John Goddard,
nice.
who, if you're somebody of magic if the Reverend John Goddard follows you on Twitter.
Nice. I've been referring to all day on stream. Sorry, it caught me with the reference there of your thoughts on Boros as the Church of Madsen. So I've just that's my whole thing now. Is the Church of Madsen is like the Boros energy.
I think I'm somewhat of a heretic amongst Boros gamers.
Oh yeah, I suppose. But maybe they're just following the wrong path.
Maybe. Well, sure. Well, this is what I was saying before. Is I love my Boros brethren.
Yeah.
And literally at the PT, sitting down for draft, I was talking about how with someone just Boros energy came up, and someone at a different draft table was like, "You're on Boros?" I was like, "Hell yeah, brother!" He's like, "Yes, brother." Some other guy was like, "I'm also on Boros." "Yes, brother." It's a great community.
Man, we need to get that. Do you play poker at all?
So no, I'd get rinsed if I did, but I'm interested.
There's a dude that plays poker called Phil Helmuth, and he's like notorious in the community. And at the latest big poker tournaments, he keeps getting carried in on like a chariot in like costume. And I think we need to start that with the Boros Energy community of like just everyone chanting as you come in.
It is definitely. For the common man, the Boros Energy. Well, it's a working day deck.
I'm a Boros enjoyer.
Indeed.
But I remember looking at your PT list, and everyone was just play Benton's list, and I was like, no, I don't like Philia. I don't know why it's in his deck.
No, it's fair. I haven't changed my list much since the Pro Tour. I think I cut the Unstable Amulet. I had one of, and that was bad.
Yeah.
But I still am a big believer in 4 Member Blood Moon, and I still play Felia. I understand, theory-wise, why people cut Felia. I think on paper it looks kind of underwhelming. I've just found that there's just a lot of games where like it randomly snatches the win. I just had games against like Chalice the Void. I had a game yesterday against an Aether Vial deck where like I kept resetting their Aether Vial. They could never play their 3 drops, and like it was the difference between winning and losing.
Maybe I'll revisit it.
Well, so
Maybe
it's
I'll
just
start worshipping at the Church of Madsen.
No, please no.
Cult.
No. Please send all prayers to meant for the Church of Madsen to Jesus instead. Thank you. So Felia, I understand theory-wise that people would say it's bad, and I'm not sure it's good. I just find that it keeps impressing me a little bit, so I'm not eager to cut it. The thing that I disagree on is twofold. One is Ragavan.
Yes.
A lot of decks have cut it.
Ragavan,
And I think that is the type of thing where they're on the draw, they get blown up by Bowmasters, or the board gets locked down by a Springard Den 2 go, and they're like, why am I playing this liability? But I think that comes back to the thing we were talking about before, which is that they sort of were thinking to themselves, well, I'm going to win this. And then, they're getting punished by Ragavan. They're like, oh, well, maybe not. Whereas really, this is a 50-50 shot. And the fact that Ragavan's sort of medium here is not greatly decreasing your win expectancy, because that's one card that essentially is just not providing a ton of equity, but that does happen with your one drop sometimes. Yeah. Whereas on the play, when you go like turn 1 Ragavan, you so frequently steamroll your opponent for free and and win and trivialize a match that otherwise would have been quite close.
Yeah.
Whereas Ocelot Pride, sure, on the games where it gets denied, it doesn't get denied quite as hard, because maybe you have a Guide of Souls and you're gaining life, you're making 1-less.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I'm not actually sure. You feel good about it, but when you review that game, was it the win? Exactly. Yeah. And meanwhile, when you have it on the turn 1, it's not trivializing the game. It's like helping a bit, but unless you're going Ocelot Pride to Ocelot Pride, Ocelot Pride, the game is still pretty hard fought. And I think that ultimately players don't like this idea of reducing it to sort of a roll of the dice where it matters whether or not you're on the play, it matters this or that. But I think that that's an important skill to be able to do, is to identify when a proposition is a gamble but a good one, and to go for it. I mean, and the guy who taught me to PT with goggles would say that, because that is sort of the definition of, I'm going to roll some dice today.
I think you might be better at poker than you think you are.
Some chance.
What's your split at the moment of Ocelots and Ragavans?
I think I run a 4-4-1, so I have one Ocelot, and I understand that does feel bad, because you do want more Ocelots once you have one, because they are so good with each other. I just found that I wanted another 1-drop though. I wasn't sure how much I actually like Ocelots up. 4 Ragavan for Guide.
Oh, okay.
The other thing, people talk a lot about how Ocelot and Guide are a combo. I don't think they understand that Guide is just a combo.
Yeah,
the card
Guide needs no help to be a fantastic
There's no
card.
contention about playing Guide of Souls.
Yeah, Guide of Souls is just good.
I'm liking being talked into this as well, because I want to try Boros Energy, FNMs and RCQs, and I only own 2 Ocelot Prides, so I'm hearing good things.
Perfect. Easy.
Easy choice.
All right. No, I think it's I think it's a relatively strong deck. The other thing though, there's been some talk about how do you find a disruptive angle for it, because you cannot really fully just race a deck like Nadu without interacting at some point, without killing a mana dork or the bird. And I think Thoughtseize has come up, and you played Mardu yesterday, right?
I played Mardu, and against Nadu twice and lost.
Do you have any thoughts coming away from that? Was Thoughtseize putting in the disruptive work?
It was ultimately. It didn't. It was Thoughtseize delayed the aggro plan, which meant that the deck ultimately didn't do what it needed to do in the turns they needed it to do them.
Yeah.
And I had a massive success with Boros playing it from day, and then convinced myself, as Magic players do, that Mardu was the right choice for this weekend, and ultimately hadn't tested it enough and found out that it just diluted the game plan of the deck. Right.
And see, this is why I like Blood Moon, is because it is also a disruptive choice in that it is throwing a wrench in the works and making it so that your opponent can't just do whatever, execute whatever game plan they might have wanted to. But it's at the top of the curve rather than the bottom. So instead of sacrificing your turn 1 play to disrupt, you're doing it on turn 3 after you've gotten a chance to develop the bird state. And then this also plays into why I like Ragavan so much, is because if turn 1 Ragavan is a free win, well, turn 1 Ragavan turn 2 Blood Moon is the freest of wins.
Yeah, that is a proposition that I'm game for.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, no, I can see that. And as I said, I'm just biased from not owning Ocelot. So I'm trying it.
Perfect.
Easy.
So you're a fan, obviously, of Boros Energy, and the format. It's there in the format. We also have some pretty highlightable cards in Modern at the moment. The One Ring, Nadu as a card. Grief. We could do a little, what do you think is going to be banned?
And actually, I'll tag on to that. Yes. And as a result of the banning that you predict, what do you think is going to be then that top dog?
Well, this is the problem, is that the banning, the problem that Wizards has to do is they have to do a ban, but they also have to do what they just asked me to do.
Yeah.
Which is to think about, well, what happens if we ban certain cards? Where does the format go from there? Yeah. And the answer is, the situation is almost impossible.
Yeah.
If you ban Nadu, I do think the One Ring is sort of the next best thing to do it's by a pretty wide margin. The card is quite strong, and if it's displayable in a format where there is a turn 3 immediately kill you combo deck through a One Ring, I think it's somewhat, what it would be without that is quite difficult. I think there's a bit of a pod situation. If you remember Abzan pod from back in the day, I used to play Deathrite Shaman.
Sure.
And when it was banned, it became a much better deck than it was before, because even though it lost a card in the banning, the card it lost was one of the most effective answers to it. I think there's a similar thing going on where like the One Ring is one of the better cards, is a card in Nadu, but the Nadu deck like is one of the few things actually keeping. Well, actually, this is sort of the opposite, I guess. The Nadu deck is one of the few things keeping the One Ring in check.
Yeah.
So, like in that other One Ring decks are a lot worse because Nadu is so fast and it makes it very difficult to tap out.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a bit of a problem. I also think that Boros Energy is very good, and it's a difficult deck to ban anything from because most of the best cards in it are from MH3. I really think they're hesitant to ban cards from MH3, and you can see why. I mean, it's a card that just released. They would like there to be consumer confidence in players' ability to use the cards that they buy. So they're in a bit of a bind. It's hard to just ban a card from the Nadu deck and then not sort of have a relatively predictable outcome of Boros Energy and One Ring decks are the best things to do by a lot.
Yeah.
And if one of those is favored against the other, it's sort of a tier 0 metagame. So the maximum bans I think you could see is probably 3, which would be the One Ring, Nadu, and Energy card to be determined later, but I don't know which one you could ban realistically. They're sort of all...
Yeah, I wonder if they will say we're looking at, we're watching closely, as they like to say.
I think the most likely ban is Nadu, we're watching closely, which is also probably the right ban, in fairness. Because I do think there's some chance that the Boros Energy and the fact that there's 2 things that look like they might be tier 0 probably means there is no true tier 0. There's just 2 tier 1s. But I do think that it's... The other thing I think that could happen, I mean, what I predict will be the result of this, is that the One Ring decks, whatever's best of them, becomes tier 1 or tier 0, and Boros Energy actually gets slightly worse. I've been thinking about this today. Boros Energy... Well, it's weird, actually, because most of the stats say it has a bad Nadu matchup, but I'm going to be frank, I think that's bad builds. I think at the highest level it is a good Nadu matchup, but it's actually a bit of a Nadu hunter. I mean, this could just be because my build is a bit skewed, but my personal testing, I've played like 50 matches against it. I'm like 12-4. It's and not doing anything particularly fancy. It feels relatively consistently reasonable. Again, the data doesn't quite bear that out, but I think there's a bit of bias because Mardu Energy is a deck that a lot of players bring who... Well, I think like right now, if you're a pro player, you bring Nadu.
Yeah.
And Mardu Energy Mardu and Boros are being brought by a wider range of people, which means that its results, I think, are somewhat suffering from that.
Yeah.
The decks are a little less tuned. Maybe the play is a little...
There's no clear consensus on build or best list. Yeah.
But to cut off very abruptly there, I'm very aware that a lot of staff have been looking at us quite intensely as they've walked up the stairs. So I feel I'm going to pressure Benton while on camera and say we need to do a part 2 of this at some point in the coming months after the ban, right? Like
I'd love to do a part 2. Yeah, no, I'm super sad if we have to leave now. This has been a ton of fun.
Yeah, it has been great. And are you going to be? Do you think you're going to be at any more of the Axion gathering stops?
It's a bit difficult. I got to move houses on September 5th,
which
that's close to
which is the day before.
Yeah.
Now everything is already packed up in boxes, so it's just a question of moving in the new apartment and dropping. But basically, I would spend 24 hours moving boxes in a new place, not unpack them, go to the airport, and also basically have come in the day before. So it's a bit much to ask. I would like to go though. Yesterday I went 6-2. Lost and winning in for the top 8, which would have locked me for the Invitational. That stings. I would really like to get an invite.
If I'm on the Invitational, Benton Madsen should be at the Invitational.
Well, I think
nice.
I think I've heard whispers that there's going to be LCQs as well.
Yes,
so I don't know. They're
is-
to be
Don't
announced,
tell me with a good
but-
time.
Yeah.
An Amersham local, confirmed by Francois as an LCQ. I don't know if there's a date for that yet, but
So
keep your eyes out.
somewhere between September and November there will be an LCQ. We don't know when, but
Good stuff.
you know, I'm sure we can.
Common Axion W.
Yes, yeah. Axion have been great. Honestly, this weekend's been
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah, I've
Axion
been
events are
impressed
so
by
good.
Cardiff,
Oh no,
Cardiff,
Francois is a legend. He should be
Yeah.
on the podcast at some point if he will ordain a
He's a
time.
man of stories.
Yeah, he's a man of stories, but he's a man that doesn't like microphones or cameras.
That's very fair.
Yeah, it's hard to get those stories.
The
but
man, the myth, the legend.
yeah, he's unbelievable things they do. But you know, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having
it's
me, guys.
genuinely been amazing, and I'm sorry to cut it short, but we will have to revisit this. I'm
We
sure
will have to
we'll be
revisit
hanging out soon enough, and you know, are
Indeed.
you in Lille? Are you going to be in Lille?
Oh, for the RC, yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
okay. So worst comes to worst, it'll be the RC, but maybe before then. But you know, to those still listening and watching, maybe I don't know. Thank you very much. And do you wanna plug anything? Do you do any streaming or anything like that?
I don't stream at the moment. I've been wondering if I should get into it. I mean, probably nothing to really plug now. Although I have been working on a series of articles. I don't have a place to publish them. They've just sort of been coming to me, so I've been writing them. It's stories from NYC MTG, which are just sort of like a kind of bits of just kind of. I've been in Belfast for the past year, and in New York you meet a lot of eccentric weirdos, and I love my eccentric weirdos. I'm an eccentric weirdo. I'm pretty sure. Other people know better than me.
We'll let you label yourself.
Belfast is a nice city. People there are very normal. You know, it's the type of thing. In that, you know, you talk to them about sort of what's their interest. Like, oh, I watch a lot of rugby. It's like, sure, that's fine, but it's not really my cup of tea. So I've been writing stories just about like my eccentric weirdo friends and eccentric weird things they did in New York, frequently revolving around Magic the Gathering. And I may try to find a place to publish those.
Well,
that sounds cool.
I'll talk to you after this, and I might have some pointers of places.
And places.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah, I've been looking for one.
But yeah,
I got the first one already written up.
Oh, nice. Well, yeah.
So
It
Thank
sounds
you.
like it needs to be in the wild.
Yeah,
I
hope so.
want to read it from your short blurbs.
Yeah, 100%. Nothing better than story time. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for coming on. And it's been a pleasure. We'll catch up soon.
God bless.